everyone. May I now request the Director PGI, Professor Vivek Lal, to welcome the August gathering. Sir, please.
Namaskar everyone. It's actually a great moment for PGI to have amongst us Diya and his daughter, Diya and her father Ajit. I'm sorry, I always take Diya's name before Ajit's name. Even in my prayers, I tell you, because I'm very fond of my daughter. You know, that's for sure, I can tell you. So, when I was asked to choose a chief guest for this function, I spontaneously thought of this father-daughter combination who have conquered Everest, who have done the nation proud, and who have hoisted India's flag on the highest peak on earth. And I guess they're still not done. Diya plans to do it again, that's for sure. Ajit was 52 when he conquered Everest, proving that age is just a number. You know, our back aches, our shoulder aches, they start when we are 40. He was atop at 52. All of us would have Googled them, Diya Bajaj, Ajit Bajaj. You would have found out they have conquered Everest. But the lady who let them do it is his wife Shirley, who let father and daughter go up together and do what very few people can even think of, let alone do it. I often talk to him, I said, how does a father feel when the daughter is accompanying him atop Everest? The daughter reached first. His oxygen mask malfunctioned. Just when he was near the summit, he let his daughter go. And then he followed 15 minutes later. Ajit was telling me that Everest is a very cruel customer. It's a very cruel customer. There are many bodies in the way. You can just imagine the emotions of a father and a daughter, who are going up to that summit and they're seeing the bodies of those who couldn't make it back or couldn't make it to the top. This kind of commitment comes with what I call sublime conviction and phenomenal practice. Phenomenal practice. They practiced and achieved what few can do. That is as far as Everest is concerned. But for me, there is a bigger message beyond Everest between Shirley and Ajit. Both let their daughter soar. Both let their daughter fly. They did not smother their daughter. They did not bridle her. They just said, this is what you are capable of, and she has proved worthy of their expectations. That is the message which this family gives us all. Ajit, Shirley, it's nice to have you here. This institute has a very strong foundation. ये बरकत की ज़मीन है. मैं हर outsider को कहता हूँ. Now I'll call you an insider today. That ये बरकत की ज़मीन है. The foundation of this institute was built on commitment. And it is not easy to maintain that same commitment over 40 years, or maybe 60 years. It was 1962, right? That commitment amongst our health care professionals is incredible. Yeah, every health care professional जो आता है PGI में, उसकी 2 आँखें 12 हाथ होते हैं, I'm telling you. They work so hard. We don't crib. We are, and I'm saying that with conviction, amongst the best paratroopers in the world. I can't say we are the best. I know we are the best. I'm saying amongst the best. We are amongst the best medical paratroopers in the world. And so I wanted you all to be here to give this group of indefatigable paratroopers a real pep talk. Both Ajit and his daughter are TED talkers. They've spoken on TED, right? I want them, I won't take much time, I want them to tell you all just what commitment and compassion, what commitment and passion can make you achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for always leading us from the front. Somewhere between the bottom of the climb and the summit is the answer to the mystery why we climb. And I am sure that this mystery has been unraveled by the first Indian father-daughter duo of Shri Ajit Bajaj and Miss Diya Bajaj to complete 7 summits, which entails summiting the highest mountains in all 7 continents. I feel privileged to invite today's guest of honor, Miss Diya Bajaj, to address the gathering.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be talking to all of you today, as I know that PGI Chandigarh nurtures some of the best medical talent in the country. So to give you a quick introduction, my name is Diya Bajaj, and I have been into adventure and the outdoors from a very, very young age. I think for me, the biggest thing was both my parents really encouraged me to go out and follow my dreams. So when it came for something like training for the Everest expedition, I joke about this, but I kind of feel like I've been training for it for my entire life. I went for my first hike before I could even walk on my father's back. And that's kind of been the theme of my entire journey. But I'm going to leave it to Dad to tell you the rest of the stories. Excited to have been a part of this seminar, even if it's just for a little bit.
Thank you. I'll keep that in my pocket. Yeah, sure. First is the That's right at the end. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Good morning. Thank you so much. Respected Dr. Lal, respected doctors, and members of the PGI team. At the very outset, I'd like to congratulate you on your 59th Foundation Day. Let your imagination run wild and high. It's a sunny day in the Himalaya. You're climbing close to 8,000 meters, the so-called death zone on Mount Everest. It's called the death zone because at 8,000 meters, as you're all aware, there's very little oxygen. And there is no such thing as rescue. It's a relatively sultry minus 20 degrees Celsius. You're climbing with your daughter. It is difficult terrain. It's a mixture of rock and ice. You've trained hard, and while it's tedious, you're actually enjoying the climb because this is a dream for both of you as a daughter-father team. Suddenly, with very little warning, all hell breaks loose. The winds pick up and there is a storm. Wind speeds pick up to 50 kilometers per hour, gusting to 70 kilometers per hour. and the temperature drops to minus 50 degrees Celsius, it becomes a battle for survival. What do you do? When I graduated from St. Stephen's College, all my friends were getting real jobs in the world. When I told them that I was going to follow for a and make it my profession, they thought that I had lost it completely. This is how I commute to work. Well, sometimes anyway. This is a 400-meter zip line that takes me across the Ganga River to one of the camps we operate above Rishikesh called Leopard Heights. I must admit, before I begin, that one of the people who really inspired me was Sir Edmund Hillary. We almost worship him in our world of adventure. I had the very proud privilege of rafting Sir Edmund Hillary down the Ganga River on 2 occasions. And we really revere him because, well, as you're all aware, he became the first person, along with Sherpa Tenzing Norgay, to climb Mount Everest on May 29th, 1953. But he used his fame to good measure. Post-Everest, he was able to raise a lot of money to build schools and hospitals for the Sherpa people of Nepal. I must admit that it was in adventure that I discovered my true identity. My parents were extremely supportive, my parents and my family. You see, in the 80s, when I got into adventure, adventure was still considered synonymous with daredevilry, and it was a very unconventional profession. I celebrated my 21st birthday on the summit of a 23,000-foot mountain with my climbing mentor and guru. That's Dr. Professor Tejveer Khurana. He's now a professor at UPenn doing research on muscular dystrophy. So my guru was also a doctor. I then began a quest to explore some of the wildest rivers on the planet. That's the Alsek River in Alaska. And we got to see 28 grizzlies and black bears. And while they look very cute and cuddly, they can be very, very aggressive. One of the wildest rivers on the planet is the Zambezi River. This is below Victoria Falls, which is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. And you can see this 16-foot raft disappearing into the maelstrom. But what makes rafting on the Zambezi really exciting is the presence of these big crocodiles in the calm pools below the big rapids. So in case the raft flips, and the rafts do flip, you have to make sure that you upright the raft and pull everybody back in very, very quickly. I must also admit that it was a very proud privilege to train the Indian Armed Forces. While I was their trainer and expedition leader for 50 courses, I learned a lot from the Indian Army. The first lesson is that the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. And the second lesson is that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Like all of you here at PGI did during the COVID storm, during the COVID pandemic. I must admit that having seen our men and women in uniform at close quarters, in the most trying of circumstances, my respect for them is sky high. I was lucky to get an opportunity to ski to the North Pole. This was a childhood dream. And the North Pole, on an expedition to ski to the North Pole, you ski on a very thin layer of ice on the Arctic Ocean. And the ambient temperature there is minus 30 degrees Celsius. And sometimes, if the ice layer is thin, you can actually fall through the ice. And of course, we had our fair share of adventure. that's a sled. You tow all your provisions, your tent, your food, your fuel, everything behind you. And that's one of my American team members
Well done, good one.
crossing a crevice.
And here goes the sled. Oh shit.
Pardon my language, but I had to stop filming and go to help my teammate. But everything was fine. We were able to pull his sled out and planting the Indian tricolor on the very top of our planet, 90 degrees north latitude, was a very, very proud and emotional moment. It's just a global positioning system that tells you that you are at 90 degrees north latitude. And as an aside, I must tell you that the coldest temperature we faced on the North Pole was minus 70 degrees Celsius. And I came back to Delhi. We were helicoptered from the North Pole, and I was back in Delhi. This was in May 2006. The temperature in Delhi was plus 44 degrees Celsius. So, but the human body is amazing, and you can adapt very, very quickly. A few months later, I got an opportunity to ski, this time to the very bottom of our planet, to 90 degrees south latitude. This was in December 2006. December because that is the Antarctic summer and you have 24 hours of daylight there. This is the plane that dropped us off and took off. And we faced some of the hardest conditions on the planet, that is an Antarctic storm. At this stage, I'm going to pause and tell you a story about teamwork. About 100 years back, there was a race to get to the geographical South Pole between the British and the Norwegians. To cut a long story short, the Norwegians got to the South Pole first. About a month before the British, who reached there on January 17th, 1912. The British were a dejected lot, since they had been beaten in the race. And on the way back to the coast where their ship was waiting for them, one of the team members, Captain Oates, got frostbite on his feet. Captain Oates realized that he was slowing his team down. And there was a very little chance of his entire team making it back with his slow pace. So one day, he just walked out of his tent saying, I'm going out, I may be some time. And he actually froze to death to try and give his team a chance to make it back. I like to call this extreme teamwork. And if we can adopt a little bit of this spirit, all for one, one for all at work, we will be able to scale any heights and enjoy the journey as well. This is at the geographical South Pole. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm smiling big time. I had read about polar explorers like Captain Scott, Amundsen, Nansen, Shackleton when I was in school at the Lawrence School, Sanaa. And it was a childhood dream to one day follow in their footsteps. I'd like to share with all of you an open secret, and that is to dream big. There will be many hurdles in the pursuit of your dreams. But if you are steadfast in your resolve and face those challenges head on with a never given attitude, there is no challenge too big. And making your dreams come true, let me tell you, no amount of money, nothing in the world makes you feel as good as dreaming, facing challenges head on with a smile, and making those dreams come true. So that's Lieutenant Oates, and that is the British team at the South Pole. So I thought I knew what the spirit of adventure was all about. till I was blessed with my best outdoor buddies, my daughters, Dia and Meghna. So this is a video scuba diving with them. So this was to wish my wife, their mother, a happy birthday. So while my younger daughter Meghna, she enjoys the outdoors, she's into kayaking and skiing and scuba diving. My elder daughter Dia, who's going to come online, she's in San Francisco doing an internship. So that's why she's not physically present here today. But Dia thrives on the more extreme stuff. And Dia was all of 14 years old when we did our first major expedition together. This was a sea kayaking expedition along the fjords of West Greenland. Let me also show you this photograph. And what you see here is Dia wearing a net. And you can see some mosquitoes there as well if you look closely. And the reason is our planet, our beautiful planet, the blue marble as we call it, is warming. And we saw signs and symptoms of this firsthand while we were in the Arctic region in Greenland. Because our planet has warmed up by 1.5 degrees over the last 2 decades or so, these mosquitoes are breeding in wild profusion. And so in the evenings, we had to wear these mosquito nets. Otherwise, the mosquitoes would just eat you alive. This was a dare, a challenge to swim to an iceberg and climb it. You know, the outdoors emphasizes the importance of being fit and healthy. You enjoy the outdoors that much more if you are healthy. And I don't have to preach to the Pope, but our health is our biggest blessing. I'm sure as doctors you understand this more than anyone else. And I feel that just as you have to eat every day, you must exercise, no matter what happens, whether it's yoga, swimming, running, walking, cycling, anything. This also helps us. We all know about endorphins, but this also helps us to be happy and release more energy in life and at work. And I think it's also important to have fun in life and never take ourselves too seriously. Keep wearing your smile always, like your director, Professor Lal here, and enjoy the journey of life. I think it's equally important for each and every one of us to contribute to making a happier workplace with a lot of empathy as well. So it was while in Greenland that we decided to ski across the Greenland ice cap. Greenland is the second largest chunk of ice on our planet. And there's about 650,000 square miles of ice in Greenland. And for me, that was also a part of the Polar Trilogy, which entails skiing to the North Pole, the South Pole, and across the Greenland ice cap near the Arctic Circle. But I must admit that I was a very nervous father because Dia was still in school. She was 17 years old. And nobody that young had attempted to ski across the Greenland ice cap at that time. So we would typically ski for about 8 to 9 hours every day. The ambient temperature was minus 23.
Dad, I can take over from here.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So I have Dia joining us online. Wonderful, Dia. All yours.
Great. So everyone, so great to be here. We were a little unsure about whether I would be able to make it or not because of the time difference, but super excited to be here and to be speaking with all of you. If we could also have the presentation on one of the screens, if that's possible, so we can keep going through the presentation, that would be great. Thank you. So the Greenland expedition was one of the most amazing expeditions I've ever been on. It's such a remote part of our planet. I was 17 at that time and hadn't seen anything like this ever before. The days were long. We were skiing for about 8 hours every day. And then we'd get to our campsite, set up, and make some food, go to sleep, and then wake up in the morning and do it again. And this was about 30 kilometers on skis every day. The interesting thing is that, as a 17-year-old, I had no connection to the outside world. So the next oldest person in the group was dad. And the only people that you have are the people around you. And we had one satellite phone where I would make a call to mom every day, which was one of the sort of rules which allowed us to go on the expedition, was that we needed to call or text and check in every day just so that she would know that we're fine. Um, but of course, the expedition was incredible, and the most amazing thing I learned over there was that when you're outdoors and you're out there doing these things, it doesn't matter who you're with or how old they are, what language they speak. Even at the end of the day, the kind of connections and bonds and friendships you make, they're absolutely amazing. This is one of our team members, Tony. We used to call him the walrus because this would happen to him every day. And I wonder, can any of you guess which bodily substance this is on his mustache? It's not sweat or snot. It's actually the condensation from his breath, because that's how cold it would get. So even the moisture in your breath would freeze over. So as challenging and difficult as this expedition was, it was also one of the most rewarding experiences that I'd ever had in my life, and I realized that this is something that I want to keep doing. Um, Next slide, please. So we did finally make it across the ice cap, and unfurling our Indian national flag as India's first, as the first Indians to do it, and as the first father-daughter team to do it was incredible. And it kind of got Dad and I thinking about doing some more expeditions together. Perhaps, maybe some mountaineering expeditions. And sure enough, my graduation gift from high school was a climb to Mount Elbrus, which is the highest mountain in Europe. And by then, Dad and I had done Kosciuszko. Dad had done a couple of the other 7 summits. But when you grow up in the field of adventure, Everest is always something that you think about. Every movie that you watch, every book that you read has some mention or some example of Everest, and then it was something that both of us were quite excited about. So while I was in college, Dad came to visit me, and we started talking about the climb, and immediately the other person, was like, we should do this. So both of us decided that this is something that we're going to try and pursue. But it wasn't sort of, a wake up one day, realize we want to do it, and go climb the mountain the next day. We actually spent 2 years training for the expedition. Um, so a couple of the decisions we made pretty early on, if you could go to the previous slide, is that we were going to climb from the north side, which is the harder and more challenging side. The route that people typically talk about is the south side. That is the Nepal side, where the Everest Base Camp trek also happens from. We decided to climb from the Tibet or China side, primarily because of the fact that though it was more technical, steeper, windier, colder, it was also slightly safer. Because it's steeper, there's less avalanche danger. And furthermore, because you don't have to cross this thing called the Khumbu Icefall, which is moving a glacier of ice and rock, which is very, very dangerous and is on the south side. So while convincing mom again to let half of her family to go out on this expedition, which doesn't have the best reputation, that was one of our arguments, that this side is slightly safer. And of course, that we would leave no stone unturned in the training. And so we did 4 practice expeditions. Other than our daily routines, which were very, very intensive and involved about 4 hours of training, we also would go out on the weekends and do a lot of hikes and treks. But beyond that, we did 4 training expeditions. The first one was in climbing a mountain called Kangyapse in Ladakh. The second one was in Nepal, where we climbed to a beautiful lake called Gokyo-ri. And over here, we also tested out a lot of our equipment and met our Sherpas, which was lovely. The third expedition was climbing in Chamonix in France. We did a lot of technical training and crevasse and avalanche rescue training as well. This is actually climbing up a frozen waterfall in Chamonix. This is not a part of the technical skills that we would be using on Everest, but since we were here, we were like, might as well do it because it's fun. And our fourth and final expedition was very, very amazing. Next slide, please. We actually went back to Ladakh, this time on a high altitude climb. And while we were up there, we got the opportunity to see the elusive snow leopard, which was a magnificent experience. The snow leopard is called the gray ghost of the Himalayas and is one of the most toughest animals to spot and on our planet. And so it definitely felt like a very, very good omen to see this beautiful cat right before. And then finally, 2 years, right, of eating, sleeping, breathing Mount Everest, we finally made it to base camp. And this is what the base camp of Mount Everest looks like on the north side. With that, Dad, I'm going to hand the stage back to you. So great to get to be here and be a part of this session. Very, very excited and honored to have the opportunity to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, dear Dia, for inspiring all of us. I feel extremely honored to now invite our revered chief guest, Shri Ajit Bajaj ji, Padam Shri Awardee. Sir, we feel extremely proud and privileged to have you here with us today. I request you to kindly come forward and deliver the Foundation Day address. So please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We can continue with the slideshow. Yeah. This is a prayer ceremony by the Rinpoche of Rongbuk Monastery at the Everest Base Camp to bless our expedition. Looking at Mount Everest, you can see the mountain at the back. That is Mount Everest. I realized that we human beings are too small, too insignificant, and we can actually never conquer mountains or nature. We must always approach mountains and Mother Nature with respect and humility. Likewise, every day we are at work, we must have tremendous respect for our organization, our colleagues, and approach our workplace with respect and humility. Let me tell you that there is no organization that is perfect. That is utopia. We have to take ownership, each and every one of us, work hard and make it the organization, make our organization the organization of our dreams. That's the summit of Mount Everest. And if we were to go to the summit of Mount Everest, there's 1/3 the level of oxygen up there, and we would die within 3 to 4 minutes. So the mantra for success that we use is climb high, sleep low. You acclimatize by gaining altitude very slowly, by getting used to those lower levels of oxygen. And beyond 7,000 meters, we started using supplemental oxygen as well. That's a yak en route to the advanced base camp. I must admit that as a father, looking at Dia climbing during the day with her youthful exuberance, I would be extremely, extremely proud. But there were so many factors beyond our normal control. You know, while we had trained extremely hard for the expedition, I must admit that I had many sleepless nights. This is climbing to the North Col to about 23,000 feet. That's Dia in the blue jacket. And you can see some climbers below us as well. And that's the advanced base camp. This is our camp at the North Col. So we had a crevice on one side and a 2,000-foot drop on the other side. So if you get out of your tent, you always have to be attached onto a rope. So coming back to, as I mentioned earlier, It was a sunny day in the Himalaya. We were climbing to Camp 2 when suddenly all hell broke loose. And we were in this deadly, deadly storm. It does become a battle for survival. What do? You take a deep breath. You cannot panic. You have trained hard, and you know that the training will stand you in good stead. A lot of battles are fought in the human mind, and we win or we lose depending on our mental attitude. You have to stay positive. You encourage your daughter, and in turn draw strength from looking at her climbing steadily and strongly in these kind of adverse conditions. You encourage her and tell her to keep an eye on the team through sign language. Positive visualization helps in these conditions. Imagine you're in camp, drinking a hot brew, or better still, standing on the summit, unfurling the Indian tricolor on top. I think we're in a similar situation today. We are still in a deadly storm. We hope the world will come out of it quickly. But the same rules apply. The world has changed and it's turned upside down. The biggest crisis of our times, the coronavirus pandemic, has hit us like a storm in our lives. And it has become a VUCA world. There is volatility, there is uncertainty, there is chaos, and there is ambiguity. But the only thing constant in life is change. And I would like to quote Charles Darwin, who wrote in his book, The Origin of Species, way back in 1859, "It is not the most intellectual of species that survive, not the strongest, but the one that are able to adapt to and adjust best to the changing environment." The French term sang-froid has to become our middle name, the ability to stay cool and calm in a crisis. And I'd like to share with all of you our secret for success on some of these extreme expeditions. The acronym for this is, well, TOP. TOP to get to the top. T is for teamwork, always putting your team before yourself. O is for outlook, always having a glass full, happy camper attitude to life. And P is for previous preparation. Confucius spoke about this in the 6th century BC. And in this case, of course, as I mentioned, this is true for life, in life, not just on our extreme expeditions here. We got to Camp 2 and the storm started again. We did not get any sleep that night. We were in the death zone, as I mentioned earlier, at 8,000 meters. There is a lack of oxygen, and we human beings are just not supposed to be there. The weather gods were kind the next morning. As you can see, we are using supplemental oxygen here. We started the climb to our summit camp. We got there, we got a few hours of sleep, and at 9 p.m. at night, we started our climb. I must admit, though, that I was able to call family back home, my wife, also get the blessings of my parents before we started the climb. They were very worried, of course, but they did give us their blessings. And at 9 o'clock at night, we got out. It was minus 50 degrees Celsius. And this is what it was like climbing at night. We had our headlamps. So even with oxygen, it's a very slow process because you take 3 or 4 steps and then you have to stop to catch your breath. We climbed through the night and we crossed the treacherous first, second, and third steps on the northeast ridge of Mount Everest. These are rocky pinnacles on the ridge and tricky to negotiate. We were climbing super strongly at night when suddenly something went wrong. I couldn't breathe. And I realized that my oxygen mask had frozen. What do? It's minus 50 degrees Celsius. You're on a steep slope. It's pitch dark. You're climbing with your daughter. You're close to the summit. The summit was perhaps about an hour and a half away or so. It was a moment of truth for me. And with the lack of oxygen, you're fuzzy-brained. You're not thinking coherently. But in that moment, I decided, I'd promised family back home that we were going to climb together as a daughter-father team. But I took the decision, I decided to let Dia carry on to the summit with one of our Sherpa buddies. And even without oxygen, I started following her, but I was much slower now. And then I thought of getting onto my walkie-talkie and calling our Sherpa Sardar, our friend Nima Nuru, who luckily had a spare oxygen mask. He caught up with me, and I was able to change the oxygen mask and start climbing. I was really worried because just below the summit there is a treacherous stretch. I'll show you that stretch. You have to traverse a rock face with a drop of 10,000 feet. But once I crossed that stretch, I knew the last 3 pitches to the top of Mount Everest were relatively straightforward. And getting to the summit was straight out of a Bollywood movie, I would say. The sun was just coming up and I saw Dia just below the summit. Of course, getting to the top was a very, and unfurling our tricolor was a very proud and emotional moment for both of us. We do not climb for records, but as the first parent-child team from India to climb Everest and the first in the world to have climbed from the harder north side, we wanted to give a strong message. We wanted to give a strong message to our fellow citizens that there is no challenge too big for us Indians. We have to work hard and excel in our chosen field with passion, honesty, and perseverance, and aim to get quite literally to the top of the world. And the second message was about our girls, our daughters. Given the right nurturing and support, they can attain any heights and can be a force multiplier, not just for our country, but for the entire world. It was broad daylight now, and we hadn't slept for 2 nights. Most accidents happen on the way down. So we hydrated, we had something to drink, we ate something, and we started on the way down. This is the treacherous stretch I was talking about. So there's a drop on the left side of about 10,000 feet, all the way down to the East Rongbuk Glacier. That's coming off the 3rd step on Mount Everest, and this is the treacherous second step. I must admit, one of our climbers from Austria sadly got frostbite on his fingers. He'd actually come out of his tent to smoke a cigarette, and I show this photograph. And well, the moral of the story here, as all of you as doctors would agree, is to never smoke. It can lead to a lot of bad consequences. We came back to the most affectionate welcome by our family and friends. It was a huge honor to meet the Honorable President of India, We were made ambassadors for Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao campaign in our country, and we joked with the Honorable President. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, or Beti Ko Everest Chadhao, being symbolic of loving our daughters, helping them to dream big, and working with them to face challenges, to realize their dreams. I must also share with you, a few years back, I was conferred the Padma Shri by the President of India. While it felt great, I'd like to mention that receiving recognition is not why we follow our passion. There is a feeling of inner joy and happiness when you make your dreams come true. Even my friends from college do acknowledge, rather grudgingly, that I had made the right decision. I do want to acknowledge the presence of my dear wife Shirley, my elder brother Anuradha, my brother General Satdev Bajaj, and many, many friends and family here. They are the most important members of our team, and without them, we could never have attained these heights. Thank you for your affectionate support and blessings, always. Our passion, our quest for adventure continues, and we decided to climb the highest mountain on every continent. The 7 summits, as this is called, that's Mount Elbrus, and Kosciuszko is relatively easy. Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa. This is Aconcagua, the highest mountain in South America. It's about 23,000 feet. And this is Mount Vinson in Antarctica. Dia and I were able to get to the top on the 1st of January 2019, a unique way to celebrate the new year. And just last month, we were very fortunate to complete the 7th summit of our 7 summits. This was on Mount Denali. That's a small plane that dropped us off on the glacier and took off. And then we were on our own on the mountain. So we carried very heavy sleds. This mountain is extremely cold. It's at the Arctic Circle, close to the Arctic Circle. It's 63 degrees north latitude. So you tow these very heavy sleds up the mountain with your fuel, food, tents, and everything. That's climbing a steep section. And that's Dia. You can see the drop below. So we are roped to each other for safety. And that's now on the summit ridge. This is just having a little bit of fun on the way. And once again, that's the summit of Mount Denali. I have now a slide which is symbolic. Oh, sorry. And I'm also going to show you a couple of videos. This was an avalanche near our base
There's an
camp. This was
avalanche
about
coming
2
down
miles away, so we knew we are safe.
mountain.
We did have avalanche
Glad we are nowhere
transceivers with
close to
us.
it. This is big. Oh my God. Oops. I'm glad we are far away.
So we were lucky, we were far, far away. But of course, we were climbing at night. We had 24 hours of daylight, but we were climbing when the sun was not overhead, when it was cool. While it's much colder at that time, the mountain conditions are more stable and the
That's a
chances
big
of
one.
avalanches
Whoa.
are a lot lower. And this is a helicopter rescue at
Chopper rescue on
16,000
Denali.
feet. There was a climber who got a heart attack.
Very skilled pilot.
And
That's the top of Denali.
luckily, the weather conditions were good, and they were able to get a helicopter and get the climber out. I now have a slide which is symbolic. Yeah. This is the PGI flag on top of the world. Let us work hard and make this great institution the best on the planet. This has to be our collective dream. Yeah. At an individual level, we also, all of us here, have to climb our own Mount Everest. So dream big and face those challenges with a smile and a never-given attitude, and unfurl the tricolor proudly on the summit of your dreams. I'd like to wish, both Dia and I would like to wish all of you health, happiness, and success higher than the 7 summits. Thank you. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Us with your exceptional journey. I am sure that you have inspired each one of us with your words of wisdom. I would now like to request the Dean Academics PGI, Professor R.K. Sharma, to present awards to outstanding employees of the Institute. Dr. Sharma, please.
You would all agree that this was one of the most awe-inspiring heroics ever narrated on this stage in this auditorium. I can vouch for at least last 40 years I've been listening to the talks on our Foundation Day. This stands amongst the most inspiring talk ever. And it makes us feel proud as Indians. You would also agree that there are many heroes amongst us also, and I present the following employees who are being commended for their dedicated services pertaining to the Institute. The Institute is really proud of their devotion to the duty. So may I first present Mr. Muralidharan, who is hospital attendant with the procurement branch. He shoulders all the responsibilities with a smiling face. Then we have Shri Dinesh Chandar, who is hospital attendant in the FA office. Dinesh always believes in 100% performance, even beyond the duty hours. Shri Ramesh Chand, hospital attendant, director's office. Ramesh is very punctual and ever willing for the work assigned, with a smiling face always. Mr. Karamveer Singh, sanitary attendant, Department of Gastroenterology. He is a very quiet but extremely diligent person, and we really appreciate that. Mr. Rajkumar, sanitary attendant, Department of General Branch. Mr. Rajkumar is very dedicated and hard-working person, and as you can see, always wears a smile on his face. Mr. Amarjit Singh, lab assistant, Department of Histopathology. He is always present well before his time so that the daily reporting goes without any hitch. Miss Meena Kumari, library attendant. Meena has a great sense of responsibility and has a professional approach to the task assigned to her. Shri Sunil Dutt, driver, grade 2, Department of Hospital Administration. He is the real driving force with a smile and delivers you to the right place all the time without fail. Ms. Sunita Bhatti, Senior Nursing Officer, Department of Renal Transplant. She has been employing a dedicated and professionally directed approach to the ever-demanding nursing needs of the renal transplant ICU. Ms. Parminder Kaur, Senior Nursing Officer, Trauma ICU. Her leadership qualities and her obsession with the hand hygiene and waste management have been exemplary in controlling the infections in the ICUs. Ms. Bharti Sharma, Nursing Officer, Emergency Surgical OPD. She is always willing to take up the challenges and ensuring optimal nursing care in the surgical OPDs. Mrs. Rama Puri, Private Secretary, Department of Endocrinology. She always adopts a professional approach in her business, and she is also very adept in Hindi typing. Ms. Baljit Kaur, Stenographer, Department of Ops and Gynae. She has wonderful drafting skills and understanding of medical terms, and is indeed an asset to the department. Mr. Tajinder Kumar, Senior Administrative Assistant, Department of Radiodiagnosis. An ever smiling and helpful person who has virtually made the department very, very patient friendly. Shri Rajendra Kumar, Personal Assistant, FA Office. Highly committed worker who is often seen in the office beyond duty hours and has been a key coordinating force amongst various centers of PGI and the ministry. Mr. Vipin Kumar, Office Superintendent, Establishment 2. A very pleasing personality and a go-getter even in the pressure situations. Indeed, a great motivator for the team he is working for. Mr. Tarsem Lal, Private Secretary, Dean Academic Office. He is an experienced hand who has the ability to create a good working environment that ensures optimal efficiency. Mr. Arun Yadav, Supervisor, Radiodiagnosis. He is well versed in all the radiology department modalities. He has been helpful in COVID-related work in the new OPD along with other radiology assignments. Mr. Bhavani Paul, Senior Lab Technician, Department of Anesthesia and Intensive Care Unit. He has successfully managed the main operation theatre and the main ICU ABG labs. Ms. Gurinder Longia, Senior Technician, Operation Theatre, Anesthesia and Intensive Care Unit. She is very knowledgeable and a devoted senior technician who believes in passing on these skills to the juniors. Mr. Kamal Bhatti, Technician, Operation Theatre, Department of Anesthesia. He has been very meticulously maintaining the equipment and the drugs for the main operation theatre. Ms. Arvinder Kaur Arora, Medical Social Worker, Department of Community Medicine and SPH. She possesses very good interpersonal skills and was instrumental in promoting the COVID-19 immunization drive. Mr. Praveen Kumar, storekeeper, Department of Central Stores. He plays an important role for maintaining the records of the material received in the central store and has shown exemplary devotion to the duty. Shri Yashpal, lift operator grade 2. Yashpal has played an important role relating to the lift supervision, lift operation and rescue operations of the passengers. Shri Ram Sanjeevan, Mali grade 2. His deep knowledge of the horticulture, PG several awards in flower shows. And lastly, Shri Niranjan Singh, technician grade 3. He has a great knowledge about the maintenance work of the Nehru Hospital building and has been the key resource person for the maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. To express our sincere gratitude and as a token of remembrance, may I request Professor Vivek Lal, Director PGI, to felicitate our revered chief guest, Shri Ajit Bajaj ji, and guest of honor, Ms. Diya Bajaj. Thank you, everyone. A grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. May I now call upon Professor Krishan Gaba, Dean Research PGI, to propose a vote of thanks.
Well, good morning to everyone present here. It has been really wonderful to listen to the chief guest and our guest of honor. Well, gratitude is not only the greatest of values, but the parent of all others. On this auspicious occasion of the Foundation Day of the Institute, I humbly take this opportunity to put my gratitude into words and acknowledge the contributions of all those who worked really hard to make today's event a resounding success. To begin with, I would like to thank Almighty God, with whose grace and blessings we have been able to make this event seamless and a memorable one. Thanks are also due to the forefathers of this distinguished institution. Without their vision, constant support and blessings, this institute would not have enjoyed its present stature. Everyone wants to reach and live on the top of the mountain, but the contentment and accomplishment with one's cherished growth is achieved while climbing it. And Bajaj Sahab has really shown that it is very adventurous and is cherishable later on, and they have shown hope at every moment of life. I, on behalf of the entire PGI family, convey my deep regards and gratitude to Honorable Chief Guest of today's function, Padam Shri Ajit Bajaj ji, for taking out time from his busy schedule for gracing today's program and encouraging the healthcare professionals and the employees of this institute. I would also like to convey my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Guest of Honor, Diya Bajaj, for gracing the occasion. She has not only made her father proud, but has proved beyond doubt that girls are no less in reaching heights of heights. We are all indebted to you, ma'am, for being part of our today's function. I also wish to congratulate all the outstanding employees of this institution who were honored today. I thank them for their significant meritorious services to the institute and also for being a motivating source for others through their hard work and sincerity. I wish to express my generous thankfulness to our director, Professor Vivek Lal, for his encouragement and guidance in conducting today's event and also for his efforts in making us meet and get encouragement from this unique and worthy duo of father and daughter. My sincere regards and thanks to Professor R.K. Sharma, Dean Academic, for his sincere efforts and constant support. I also take this opportunity to thank the Department of Hospital Engineering and Planning, Electrical Division, Horticulture, and other supporting departments, including audiovisual and photographic, etc., for their vast contributions in successfully organizing this program. I express my thanks to the distinguished assemblies for their august presence on this auspicious occasion. Last but not the least, my heartfelt gratitude to all the esteemed faculty members and residents and employees of the PGI for their active participation and contribution in making the Foundation Day a grand success. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Professor Gawal. May I request all of you to rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you, one and all. Kindly assemble in the lawns adjoining the Bhargav Auditorium for a cup of tea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, not at all. Come, please.